What's up guys, welcome back to the second video in this series on wavy and glossy Yu-Gi-Oh cards. In this part I'll be going through what exactly a glossy card is, how to identify it, and which cards exist in glossy print, formerly known as second print. So whereas wavy cards are understood pretty well by a lot of collectors nowadays, glossy cards have received nowhere near as much attention over the years, and so I felt it was important to make this a separate video. Similar to the term wavy, which I discussed in the last video, glossy is a term which refers exclusively to the cardstock that a card is printed on, and it originated as a way of differentiating the two different cardstocks that the first edition North American run of LOB was made on. I've already gone through in detail in the last part what constitutes a wavy card, so check that out if you haven't already, but now I'm going to do the same with glossy. So starting with these two cards I've got here, as I did in the last video, we have a wavy copy on the left and a glossy copy on the right. And in the last video I focused on what the wavy card looked like. But this part I'm going to go into more detail about what the glossy card looks like. So starting out, you can probably see when I put them in the light that the surface textures are quite different. The glossy card has that reflective surface, and the wavy card has those waves running up and down it, and it's duller. But there are a few other details to note as well. So the text is bolder on the wavy card, as I said in the last video. But also, if I bring them up close, you should hopefully be able to see that the glossy title is a fuller gold than the wavy one, which has somewhat of a grainy texture to it and doesn't pop as much. So in addition to that, if we flip them over on the back, you can hopefully see that the wavy card has a kind of waxy layer applied to it, which is not present on the glossy card. And also the colors are a little darker on the wavy copy, but it's quite a small difference. And whereas wavy first edition cards only exist for LOB, for glossy print they also exist for the first starter decks that came out, Yugi and Kaiba. So I'm going to demonstrate that here with a glossy first edition LOB Dark Magician, which you can see on the left, and then on the right I have a glossy first edition starter deck Yugi Dark Magician. And you can see these two prints are more or less identical. The text does look a little bolder on the starter deck copy, but that's just a coincidence because the thickness of text on glossy cards does vary somewhat from card to card. But one thing that's actually important to note, which a lot of people miss, is that not all starter deck Yugi cards are glossy print. So we have this one on the left, which I just showed you, which you can see is a normal glossy print. But the one on the right is what I would call an alternative glossy print. I'll show you why in a second. You can see to begin with, these look very similar. They appear to be the same printing. They certainly have the same printing style. But when I flip this one in the light, you should hopefully be able to see that the texture is not actually the same as a normal glossy print. It's a little bit rougher and it has a lot less gloss on the surface. So like I said, I call these alternative glossy prints. And they're pretty important because in LOB they don't exist, and so it shows that the starter decks, even though they are glossy, are a separate and probably later printing of glossy. Now, the term glossy is usually only applied to first edition cards, like this Blue Eyes White Dragon you see here again. But there are actually such thing as glossy unlimited cards as well. So if I put these two in the light, you should be able to see that they both have that same level of high surface gloss. They have the same colors, and if I flip them over to the backs look identical as well. Now, glossy unlimited cards are actually extremely rare, and as a result, I think people have often had the misconception over the years that all unlimited original print LOB cards, which aren't wavy, must be glossy, because that's how it is with the first editions. But glossy unlimited cards actually only account for about 1% of the unlimited print run based on sort of eBay statistics. And I'll show you now how they're different from other original unlimited cards. So what I have here is 3 different trappoles from LOB. And again, 2 of them are glossy print, 1 first edition, 1 unlimited. And the third one is an original 2002 LOB print, but it's not glossy. So starting just with the glossy cards, you should hopefully be able to see again they look extremely similar from all angles. So if I put them under the light, they both have that high level of gloss going over the card. From the back, they have the same color and the same texture as well. But now if I put the glossy print down and pick up the regular 2002 Unlimited, without putting them in the light, you can't see too much of a difference between them. The text is slightly different on the glossy print compared to the original 2002 regular print. But apart from that, they're pretty similar, and the colors are pretty similar as well. But if I put them in the light, you should hopefully be able to see pretty quickly that the copy on the right, even though it has a glossy surface to an extent, is nowhere near as reflective as the one on the left. And similarly, if I flip them over to the back, you could see right away that the colors are pretty different. The one on the left has a much deeper orange to the one on the right, and the texture is a little different as well. And I should just show you as well that Glossy Unlimited cards exist not only for LOB, but also for the original 2 starter decks. So I have here a first edition Glossy Print Blue Eyes White Dragon from SDK, and on the right I have a Glossy Unlimited Blue Eyes White Dragon from SDK. You can see again that same surface on both cards. And what's special about this one is it's also missing the name, which I wouldn't call it common at all as an error with Glossy, but it is something you see from time to time. And I'll just demonstrate on the back as well. You should be able to see they have that same look, same color, same texture again. In terms of looking at which cards exist in Glossy Print, unlike Wavy, where there are pretty significant discrepancies between which cards exist in first edition and which cards exist in Unlimited, for Glossy it's a lot simpler. Every card from LOB, SDY, and SDK exists as a Glossy Print in first edition, and every card from those sets also exists as a Glossy Print in Unlimited, except for this guy, Trihorn Dragon. So I have here a glossy first edition version of Trihorn Dragon, but for some reason the Unlimited versions of this guy do not seem to exist, which suggests that no Hobby Unlimited products were made for Glossy, because Trihorn Dragon is the Hobby secret rare. And I have only ever seen Glossy Unlimited cards opened from blister packs. So if those are the only place they come from, then that makes sense. We're getting close to the end of the video now, but there are a last couple of points that I wanted to mention. So in the last video, I showed you how a wavy card can sometimes look similar to a 2014 Legendary Collection reprint. And with Glossy, I've seen a few people confusing Glossy Prints with the 2010 version of the Legendary Collection reprint, which does not feature the stars in the Eye of Anubis like the 2014 version. So the confusion, I think, arises from the fact that the fonts on the card are reasonably similar, as are the colors. But if I put them in the light, you should again be able to see that the one on the left is a lot glossier than the one on the right. And similarly on the back, the colors are very different on the two cards, and so are the textures. So yeah, they look similar from some angles, but in reality there are a lot of differences between them. And the last thing which I thought I should mention is to do with foil line errors. So it's quite common, both for first edition and Unlimited cards in Glossy Print, for the hollows that is, that there is a line running down the foil which separates the two sides of the foil. I don't know exactly what the explanation to this is, but it is a common error on Glossy cards, and so I thought it was worth mentioning in a video about them. And with that being said, we have reached the end of this video. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. And please do leave a like, comment, subscribe, share the video, whatever you're able to do to help it reach a wider audience. It's much appreciated. And of course, stay tuned for the next video in this series when I will give a brief history of the concept of first print.